Good morning, everybody. It's great to be with you all today. I apologize. It is my fault for being 2 minutes late to this webinar. All of our panelists, which you can see on your screen on camera, apparently all grew up in the same town. So there was this mad rush to catch up with old friends and names we knew and places we worked. So this is going to be a ton of fun working with this group today. Thanks for joining us. Michael, go ahead and kick us off.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us for another installment of Media Post webinar series. I'm Mike Winkleman, Content Director for Bespoke by Media Post, and we have a great panel discussion for you all today, put together by our friends at Reveal Mobile. Media Post webinars bring together the media, marketing, and advertising community to learn more about methodologies and the techniques that make effective business possible across a variety of categories, brought to you by top solutions providers, marketers, and practitioners in our industry. Today's webinar will be moderated by Reveal Mobile CMO Dan Dillon, who just spoke with you. Joining him in the panel discussion will be Randy Kilgore, Reveal CRO, Teresa Bunn, VP of Operations at Digital Marketing Group, and Rich Delancey, CEO of the dealership Toolkit. Their topic is the strategic service that drives agency and client growth, and their focus is on geofencing marketing. This is a great, important, and incredibly relevant topic, to be sure, and I, for one, have been looking forward to hearing what they've got to say. Before we get started, just a reminder, after the presentation, we'll have some time for a Q&A session. You can submit your questions at any time during the presentation in the question box that you'll find on the GoToWebinar interface on your screen. With that, let's bring in Dan to get things going. Dan, take it away.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. And thank you again all for joining us. It's great to have you all with us this morning, or perhaps this evening if you're in Singapore. We're going to be talking, as Michael said, all about this strategic service that drives growth for your agency and for your clients. And I'm thrilled to be able to tell you that we have a number of agencies represented on the call today among us. So with that, let me actually jump into a couple of agenda items just to give you a feel for what we're covering today. And then we'll do proper introductions so you all get a feel for who's on today's webinar. So we're going to talk through a whole host of topics today, really revolving around the kind of pressure agencies are under, but also the kinds of pressures that their clients are under, right? So it goes both ways. And through that lens, we're going to talk about a highly strategic part of your portfolio, or potentially part of your portfolio, geofencing marketing. So as I mentioned, pressure is on in the agency world. But that's only because clients have new problems and are looking for new solutions. So clearly those two things are symbiotic. We're going to talk through how to position and sell geofencing. It is not overly complicated, but it does require a degree of nuance and a degree of frankly, simplicity and elegance, which of course all good sales pitches have. And then we're going to talk about how to make that profitable, right? So it's not just a piece of your portfolio that you hope works. We have a formula that we're going to share with you on today's webinar for making it a profitable service out of the gate. And then, as I mentioned, we're going to talk through a couple of very unique agency perspectives. On the webinar today, we have Direct Marketing Group, that's Teresa, and we have Rich Delancey from Dealership Toolkit. And by the way, Q&A, as Mike mentioned, is super important. We want to make sure that we get to all your questions by the end of the hour, and we'll get to those here in a moment. But before we do all that and get into topics and slides, let's go around the room really quick and just do some introductions. Teresa, go ahead and kick us off.
Yeah, hey, I am Teresa Bunn. I'm the VP of Operations at Direct Marketing Group. We're a digital agency that focuses within the automotive industry on both a local and national level. DMG, we provide solutions that allow us to help our clients generate the maximum amount of results without having to spend their maximum amount of budget. So really, in short, we just offer digital solutions for very traditional problems. We offer over 20 years of experience within this vertical, and we pride ourselves on being an agency that was created by people who came from the automotive industry for the automotive industry.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Teresa. Rich, take it away.
Hi, my name is Rich Delancey. I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of Dealership Toolkit and Coast Technology. We are an agency located in Tampa, Florida. We also have an office in Louisiana. And one of our big claims to fame is we have a 120-seat call center. So all of the great digital leads that we help deliver for dealers, we actually work those leads for them here in the call center and turn over the appointment at the end of the day. So all they have to do is sell the up. We work primarily in the automotive space, but we also have a huge business in RV, marine, and power sports.
Fantastic. Randy, your turn.
Hi, I'm the CRO here at Reveal Mobile, and I have the best job in the world because I get to work with people like Richard and Teresa. And if you're wondering what city that is that we are all from, we just have to say 2 words, which are "Go Birds."
Yeah.
So any other Philly fans out there will know what I'm talking about. But yes, I'm CRO, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation over the next hour.
Thanks all. Appreciate that. And just really briefly, I'm Dan. I'll be sort of a quasi-moderator of today's session, given everybody's input here. I look after marketing at Reveal Mobile. I work side by side with Randy, generating obviously all kinds of interesting opportunities and ways to learn, frankly, about the market and pursue that same market of agencies and retailers and everybody who has an ad budget, frankly. I also have with me my trusty canine sidekick. Her name is Sasha, in case you're curious about Sasha. She will not be participating unless it is unplanned and unscripted. In that case, she will be participating vociferously. So let's hope she stays quiet. Quick reminder, do ask questions, right? These are key. We want to know what's on your mind. We want to know how we can help you understand and execute better. So as Mike mentioned, just use the GoToWebinar console to enter your questions at any time, and we'll get to those. With that, Randy, go ahead and set some stage here for us around challenges for retailers and for agencies.
All right, happy to. So data, we're going to start with data. It's like a blessing and a curse, right? It wasn't so long ago that an agency just developed a strategy. They did the creative, they bought the media, and then everybody just looked at the sales numbers. That was like the report card, like just, it seems so simple, right? But now, like as an agency, you have to vet all kinds of new technologies, all of which generate tons of data, right? So now the client has data, your tech partners have data, your media spend generates data, and it's like overwhelming, right? It blows your mind. It's the fog of war effect. And geofencing, really clearly adds more data to the mix. There's no getting around it. So some of the best practices that we've heard and what we wanted to share, and the simplest one, my mother always used to tell me, just keep it simple, stupid. She called me stupid a lot. I don't know if that was a theme or not. Just kidding, Mom. But like, for example, when explaining the technology, people who start talking about GPS and lat long find their prospects' eyes kind of start to glaze over. The easiest way we've heard geofencing explained really is it's like the wireless fence you put in to keep your dog in the yard, right? If the dog tries to leave, you send the dog a signal. The fence sends the dog, the wireless fence sends the dog a signal. If a person comes into a geofence, they get a signal, or their phone sends a signal. They don't get it, they send it, and they don't get zapped either, just to be clear. It's just the signal goes up into our universe. So like, it's just keeping it simple. The second thing we hear is that agencies really find it preferable to use deterministic data over inferred. So real numbers, not projected, right? Adding inferred or projected data just like calls into question like the methodology behind the projection, and everyone tells us that just creates this huge distraction. So keeping it simple is a big part of how to handle this fog of war data issue that everybody faces. You can hit the next slide. All right, so
Sorry about that, folks.
no, that's all right. Just as easily could have been mine too. I should have turned my phone off already. So then now this 4A slide, which is really interesting from a study of theirs, shows agencies get really high marks, right, for being innovative, for bringing tech solutions to the fore. But really no surprise to you all, I'm sure, that clients, like, they can't always draw a direct correlation between the tech and its value, right? They can't always tie what's new with what's driving ROI. And without that tie, the value that gets brought by the agency can get called into question, which is what happens, I think, at the bottom here sometimes. So the way we hear agencies using geofencing to connect technology and value is by focusing on conversions, right? Keeping it simple. They ask their clients, what's the value of a customer? They track the actual conversions from the geofenced audiences, and then the ROI becomes the result of that math formula. It's very straightforward, so they can keep it simple. If you go to the next slide, where is it, Dan? Thank you. So that same 4A study makes a very similar point about ROI. Agencies win business by, this is the 4A saying, by showing ROI. And we hear that geofencing, when focused on actual conversions, brings in new clients and strengthens the bonds with existing ones. So like as trust based on ROI using geofencing is established, then the other recommendations that the 4A study shows here, talks about here, become easier to implement. Though creative can be modified, right, based on whether the campaign is retargeting existing customers or conquesting from competitors, and which ones are successful. Measurement based on actual deterministic numbers demystifies that great buzzword attribution, right? Attribution sort of means a lot, and everything and nothing, like programmatic. While it takes some time, we have actually even seen agencies use geofencing as their North Star, right? As the strategic planning underpinning of their market or go-to-market approach. Some use the foundation of geofencing like to roll up media spend that some of their clients had previously spread around other agencies. So it could be a powerful tool to address this issue about winning business through ROI. Now, if I remember the order correctly, Dan, we have a poll.
That's right. Yeah, just exactly, Randy. You nailed it. So just to kind of get a feel for everybody's priorities on the call today, and we know they're myriad, right? As many attendees as there are priorities. But if you had to choose from this list, which is fairly curated, share with us, if you would, your main priority for growing your agency today, right? And do select just one if you had to force the answer. Is it really about today pitching and winning more clients? Is it about growing your current accounts and getting more value from those, not necessarily going through new greenfield? Is it just innovating with new services? Is it trying to build your portfolio and sort of strengthen your flag? Or is it partnering? Is it growing your ecosystem of skills and technology and market penetration? Or is it something else that's not in those answers at all? And I'll share the results here in just a second as soon as everybody gets a chance to vote to get a feel for where we're all thinking. And then the purpose, of course, is obviously to calibrate our content from here forward through these priorities. So it looks like everyone's voted. Let me go ahead and share the results. The goal here on today's webinar by a slim majority is pitching and winning, which is great. We're going to talk actually quite a bit about how to do that with geofencing here in the following slides. So that's a nice coincidence. Growing current accounts, a good majority or a good portion of folks here want to do that. New services, great. I'm sure that's why you're in the webinar to begin with, and then partnerships to a small degree, and then no other, maybe too vague an answer for anybody. So with that, Randy, let me go ahead and push it back to you and have you talk us through sort of how to position and sell this service to agency clients.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dan. Yeah, winning new business, no surprise, right? That's a leading answer. So selling geofencing, like as I mentioned earlier, like keeping it simple just seems to be the key, right? If you remember like the Clinton campaign, maybe I'm dating myself a little bit, but their mantra was, "It's the economy, stupid." I seem to be using stupid a lot, but sorry about that. But it's economy, stupid. In this case, it's the location visit, not stupid, just the location visit. The message is get people who have been to the location you care about. Get those people. There is no spillover. There is no waste. Message just those people on Facebook or via DSP. It's just a straight, often what we hear, like that is what is the most effective way to just get geofencing sold through. But I know, Teresa, you have a very elegant way at DMG to sort of keep it simple and straightforward.
Yeah, we try to keep things extremely simple. When we're talking with our clients, we focus primarily of our advertising within either Facebook or Instagram. And when it comes to the industry that we're working in, it's either they know a lot about it, enough to make them dangerous, or they know nothing. And so we don't want to confuse anything. So what we did when we partnered with Reveal Mobile and we came up with the product of how we're going to present it, we relabeled it. We called it DMG IDs. And we use the ID form as far as like we're capturing their mobile ID. So the way that we explain it to our clients is, our clients are wanting to get the competitors, the people that are showing up on their competitors' lot. So we just say, what we're going to do is we're going to draw like a little circle, a little diagram around the competitor's lot. Once those people enter it, we're going to capture their ID. Then we're going to serve them an ad, and they're going to show it back up on your lot. So essentially, we're able to track and generate showroom ups for you. And as soon as we say showroom ups, it's like their eyes get bright and they completely are on the same page, the same book, chapter, everything. So it's just very, very simple way to explain it. And then they just understand completely, and it's very seamless for the process they're on out.
Yeah, that's good. That's great. And it's a one I should add that, you know, using their language, using their vernacular, using the vocabulary, you know, show them up, all that. It's like, that makes perfect sense. So, so Dan, if you could go to the next slide, if you don't mind.
Yep.
So, of course, you know, I guess it's not always possible to stay out of the weeds. Like, it sounds great, keep it simple, but sometimes there are questions from people who are just more digitally savvy or who have done some geofencing in the past, and you know, the questions they might ask. So, of course, you know, you want to meet those head on, can't duck them. So, most people that we talk to find that taking those more digitally savvy people, like, under the hood is what works for them. So we've had clients who will draw a polygon, you know, show them how it is to draw a polygon, and which is especially that dog fence around the location, to show how people will be included if they do cross that hypothetical dog fence. We have clients to show the attribution, the actual campaign results that they've seen from others, or, you know, that are used for mock purposes, so that it's really clear. It's clear that the reporting is happening during the campaign in real time, and not provided as some sort of post wrap-up campaign, which apparently I think happens quite a bit. And then sometimes they'll even show the attribution report, so they can see those deterministic numbers, those actual real data numbers of people who have been converted, who've come back to the store. You know, again, if you're pitching it, you're showing somebody else a use case or a mock-up, but those things seem to be really effective at getting people who definitely want to get under that hood, who are not going to be, you know, who just have more experience. Even, you know, at Reveal, we have jumped on clients' webinars and helped show off the platform. We've done this as, you know, a trusted partner at Reveal, meaning, you know, talk about who we are, or in a more white label manner. So, point is, you know, this is about geofencing in general, but if your partner should be willing to jump in and help in any way that makes sense for you.
Randy,
so, yes.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, because you can ask 500 people in America what is geofencing, and you're probably going to get 500 different answers. And the wacky thing is, probably most of the answers will be right. Geofencing means something a little bit different. You know, when it, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when it was like the hot topic of the day, you know, how, you know, showing out on somebody's phone while they're in your competitor's store. And it got like diluted in the story, like when we were at camp and passing it down the trail, it got to the end user, it got messed up. So you have digitally savvy people out there that they think that they know what a polygon is, or what they think what a geoframe or a geofence is. But until sometimes when you actually show them what it should be used for, they, you know, it turns their head. Because sometimes when I say the word geofence to somebody, oh, we tried that 5 or 6 years ago, didn't work. No, this isn't your granddad's geofencing. This is, you know, 2021. Let me show you some stuff that works.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes when you start to ask those questions and peel back that onion layer, right, you'll hear beacons or something, right? Which was a technology from a few years ago, which seemed to be like the answer to everything. Oh, we'll just put beacons in every store and we'll grab it. But the beacon, you know, that became unscalable and problematic. So they may have in their head, well, we tried that. We used beacons. We're like, well, the world doesn't need, you know, technology has advanced and it's easier and better now. So great, excellent point, Rich. Thank you. So that's my tap here, Dan. I think it's over to you, right?
Go ahead, Randy. You know, you're right. Yeah, that's actually a perfect segue. What you guys were just talking about, Rich and Randy, about defining terms and sort of crystallizing the value of what you're talking about with this technology. Because you're right, there are myriad definitions. So this next section of the webinar really kind of talks about the granularity of the technology, how to frame it, how to position it, how to use it, how to capitalize on it. So we'll do a little tag team on this. But I wanted to start it by giving some context around the 3 kind of superset benefits of geofencing as this group collectively thinks about it. And it really comes down to use case, right? You're actually applying the technology to grow in some way. And the first superset benefit, if you will, is about retaining loyal customers, right? Brand loyalty is on the skids. There's a whole bunch of hand-wringing about how consumers are moving through time and space. And frankly, we're not keeping customers in the same way we used to as advertisers and retailers. But when you've got the ability to geofence your own physical locations, you can message to those clients or those customers who've already visited, who are the easiest folks to recapture, right? So it's retargeting in the real physical world. You could cookie somebody from a website. This is effectively cookieing somebody on the pavement, right? The second benefit is helping your clients win market share through competitive conquesting. This is geofencing your competitors' locations. You know they're in market because they're shopping for virtually exactly the same thing you're selling. They're just going to the wrong store. So it's a great way to be very compelling to people who are very low in the funnel. And then the third category is around geofencing places where you know your ideal customers go. So if you are, I'll make this up, if you are an apparel retailer, you're selling, I don't know, workout clothing or yoga pants or something like that, you might want to geofence Orange Theory, or you might want to geofence Planet Fitness, or you might want to geofence yoga studios. They're not competing with you, these places, but you know your customer has an affinity for your brand by virtue of places they're going. So these are the three ways we're seeing users of geofencing capitalize on the technology itself. So let me drill down into a little bit more of a specific example, just to give you some real world terms here. And I'll use an auto group. Actually, this is Chicago. This whole team on the webinar is from Philadelphia. I'm the only Chicagoan, so I'll just speak on behalf of my Midwestern brethren here. Bill Knight Ford in downtown Chicago, big operation. He's got, you know, all kinds of acreage, but not all of his visitors to this dealership have the same needs, right? There's folks who are looking to test drive new. There are folks who are looking to get a used car. There are folks who need service from the garage. And frankly, at Bill Knight, you can see to the right, there's folks who need collision service. They're in some sort of accident. They need major work. So everyone who's coming to this location is in a very different mindset and in a very different place in terms of buying. Bill also knows he's got to grow recurring revenue. It's great to sell a car. It's great to sell many cars, but it's also great to have that recurring service level revenue as a part of the business. So he's got to grow the garage service. Now, if you draw a big perimeter around Bill Knight Ford using a tool like Facebook or some built-in, you know, geolocation tool, it's nice, but it gives you a whole bunch of waste. There's a ton of people inside that circle who have no interest in Bill Knight Ford, or they're 15 years old, or whatever the case might be. You're advertising effectively to everybody in that circle. A very small portion of them is in market for anything Bill Knight has to say or anything Bill Knight has to sell. And that's where the fat comes in. That's where a lot of that dissatisfied client result, hard conversation stuff happens. If you use a tool like a proper geofencing marketing tool, you can get real surgical real fast. So think of this. Bill Knight now, using, as Teresa was mentioning a minute ago, polygons, can draw very specific geometric shapes around portions of his dealership and target new and used car buyers here in this polygon. He's got the garage here in this polygon in the middle, and then on the far right, he's got his collision repair. And these are all fully customizable, right? So you can make them as big as small. You can spill into US 64, I suppose, if you want to, although I'm not sure that'd be a good idea. Point is, you can customize these down to a meter, 3 feet, right? So what? Now what, right? Well, now you've got real addressable audiences that you can push into Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, or pick your social media platform of choice, or programmatically through display using mobile ad IDs that you know showed up in those locations, not just at Bill Knight if you don't want to, but also at all of Bill Knight's competitors. So these are a couple different data values that Facebook accepts. They accept mobile ad IDs, they accept email addresses, they accept phone numbers. These are all good, unique IDs you can use. And then you're getting rid of all the fat, because you know once you upload this list to Facebook, Facebook is matching your list to their account directory and giving you only those audience members on your list. So there's zero fat inside the circle, if you will. And then what? Well, now you've got real meaningful messaging to each one of your discrete audiences. You've got your new and used car buyers with a nice lead gen form built into Facebook. You've got your service garage with cars up on racks, getting great service. And then you've got your collision audience getting their own ad, and they have nothing to do with the folks on the left or in the middle, right? So it's a really nice way to get super specific with your audiences. And then at the end of the day, as Randy was mentioning, you got to measure what really matters. If you know the value of an oil change, or the value of course, a used car sale, and naturally you do, in this case, it's a simple multiplication problem, right? It's 3,608 visits, which is the middle chart there at the top, times the value of visit divided by ad spend, and there's your ROI. And with this kind of service, you're seeing a very healthy return on that ad spend, because it's a clear one-to-one, or it's a clear one-to-many relationship with folks who are in market. So with all that as a backdrop, Randy, you're going to walk us through a hypothetical model for pricing, and I know we want Teresa and Rich to kind of share how they do this as well. So go ahead and set this up for us.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Shane. Yeah, this is very specific to making geofencing a profit center. After all, like, while your agency objective is clearly to help grow your client's business, you got to grow your agency too, right? So let's say you were paying $3,000 a month for access to a geofencing platform. And what we see people do is a number of things, a couple things, sometimes together, sometimes separately. They typically create or increase their technology fee. They've introduced the concept of either already with clients, or in the prospect of pitching new business, or as a result of thinking about geofencing, they've created this notion of a technology fee, or a technology charge, or something. There are different ways you can skin that cat, but that's the general idea. What we hear, and then what you charge is obviously relative to the kind of clients that you have, the size and everything, and the deals you have with them. But just using a number, $2,000 a month, the tech fee, 4 clients means you're already right side up. 4 clients and you're in the black. But then we also see people talk about putting an upcharge on the media as well. The media, that when they use the maids, they use that to buy media on Facebook or a DSP or whatever. Then they can put a markup. They can add a markup to that. So if you put 20% on top, then you've got another $16,000 on top of the tech fee, and so you're extremely right side up. This example obviously nets out to you can see on the screen, $252,000 a year. That may be aggressive. I'm just going to be clear, but you just got to plug in your own best guesses here, like what works for your clients, and which of those two or both together that you can deploy. But that's the way that's the way we hear people and talk to people about how to think about this as a profit center and grow their business. I know Teresa and maybe Rich, you guys have some thoughts on how you, without going too far and sharing too much information, like how you think about this.
Yeah. So what we do internally, so with our current clients that we have, we keep this product completely separate from what we normally do. Like their normal Facebook advertising, we keep it 2 separate things. And there's a reason why we do. So we say, this is what we're going to do for DMG IDs. We do have a software fee. I'm just going to throw out random numbers here. So let's just say if our software fee is like $1,000 a month, that is your software fee for it. Then however many locations you would like to target, it's going to be X amount of dollars per location. If they're doing something where they want to target their competitors and go after new sales and acquire new clients, then we suggest like a certain amount for that. If they're wanting to go after like service departments that are much smaller, it's going to be a much smaller audience, then we suggest a certain amount for that. The reason why we keep everything separate and we do it that way is because you will have clients that are saying, well, you already do Facebook advertising with us, just move some budget around and just let's target 25 of these different locations. That might be a little unrealistic. We want to make sure that they know exactly what they're spending on exactly what location, and that we have it set up for them and just are completely transparent with them so they know exactly where everything is going.
We, as you were talking earlier, building it into the tech fee, we use it in every campaign. It's just like we have electricity and water here in the building. Geoframing, geofencing, maids, whatever you want to call them, are just a part of our normal business. In fact, it was funny, I was going to lunch yesterday with someone and they said, another agency told me how diluted some of the Facebook audiences are starting to get. And he goes, have you seen that? And I said, I gotta be honest with you, we use so little of the Facebook audiences today, because everything we do is so hyper targeted through the maids, and then also pushing it back to our DSP, that there could be no Facebook audience and I probably wouldn't even know. because everything that we do is custom based with that. So we build it in as part of doing business with us. And there's the giant black hole of advertising. We try to make it a little bit smaller for dealers. And if they only have $1 to spend today, we want to try to spend it in a way that they can get the biggest bang for their buck.
Awesome. Push conversions and ROI really works for them, right? So that's great. All right, Dan, got another poll, right?
We have one more question for everybody on the webinar today about getting your clients to think about these kinds of new technologies. This one also forces an answer. It's not a multi-select, it's a radio button. So when you're pitching a new service to clients, whether it's geofencing or something else, what in your experience is keeping them from getting to yes? Is it the cost of the service? Is it really just your own inability, your shared inability to sort of reconnect or regroup on the decision? Does the client not really fully grok the value of what you're pitching? Or is it just not in line with what they're trying to solve for in the moment? And then of course we've got other as well. And if you do have other as a response, please feel free to add that to the questions box, what your other is. But by and large, what is that sticking point with getting clients to get to yes? And I'll share results here in just a minute as soon as everyone's voted.
You'd like a theme song.
We should be humming the Jeopardy theme.
Yeah, right.
Especially now, right? Timely.
Note to media post, background music on polls. All right. Looks like we've got everybody chiming in here. Let me go ahead and share the results since there is no music and you're all dying to know the answer. It is cost, and the client doesn't get it, really, at the end of the day. Those look like the big ones. Difficulty regrouping is just a technicality, so not a huge problem there. And then a small chunk of folks on today's webinar have other issues around getting clients to say yes. So, calibrate that with where you are in your own agency experience and think about, what that might mean from your standpoint, and the value. Hopefully, some of this content we've shared today will help break through that value equation. And if it hasn't yet, I guarantee you what we're about to present will. And that brings us actually to Teresa, your story at DMG. Tell us a little bit about your own experience at the agency and the success you're seeing with pitching and selling this service.
Yeah, of course. So we, the pain points that we were feeling and why we wanted to partner up with Reveal Mobile is because, I'm sure everybody's aware a couple of years ago, Facebook made it to where automotive industry as well as a few other industries now have to follow underneath this special ad credit type of advertising. So prior to that, you would be able to go down to as small of a radius over any location you wanted to within just 1 mile. Even within that 1 mile, you still are kind of getting some extra fat in there and getting some people that you really shouldn't need to be targeting, but that was your option, 1 mile. Well, when special ad credit, that option had to be put into place, the minimum is 15 miles, and you're capturing an audience that you really don't need. You're getting extra people in there that are not going to be interested. They could be 15 years old, like who knows? So what we did is when we partnered with Reveal, we found that we were able to go ahead and target exactly who we wanted to get. So in the bottom picture, you can kind of see, or I'm sorry, in the top one, you can see that, that 15-mile radius, it's going over Cary, Raleigh, it's covering other cities too. So in the bottom picture, what we do for our clients, we draw an exact description around the actual parking lot. Everybody is going to have to drive through the lot to park their vehicle. They're probably going to walk around and look at some vehicles before they even get into the building and talk to anybody. And then that's also going to capture people who are driving in after hours that don't go into the building, or driving in through a weekend or on a Sunday who will never see it. This has allowed us to then go ahead and generate the best audience. Even if it's a smaller one, we know exactly who we're getting, and we know that we can hit them with the exact right message at that right time. One of the cool things that I did want to say is when we did partner with Reveal, their platform is so amazing that it does show you, once you put in the location itself, it allows you to see where the competitors are going. So once they leave the current location, if I'm working with dealership A, and that's my central location, we could see where their people are leaving to afterwards. We had a client who thought that their customers were leaving and going directly across the street. Well, what we found out is they were actually going 3 miles down the road to the CarMax, not the dealership directly across the street. So it really helped us then suggest who they should actually target and where we should go with it. And then, so going into the slide, so the results that we were able to get because of the availability that we had and seeing where we should actually target, and based off of those suggestions and then collaborating with our client, I'm going to give 3 different examples. So we work with a local Buick GMC Cadillac dealer. They wanted to go after 7 different locations. And then from those 7 locations, just from drawing around that parking lot, in 30 days, we were able to generate 271 conversions. Remember, we calculate conversions as showroom ups. Those are people that left that dealership and then came to their dealership. The message that we're delivering with that is we're putting the type of Facebook ad, it's saying, you saw what dealership B had to offer, now come see why we are doing X amount better, or come see now the vehicles that we have online, or come see the 400 vehicles we have in stock. You know, it's a pretty aggressive message, slightly jerky, completely aggressive. So that's what they wanted those. So we also work with a local Chevy dealer. They went down to 4 different locations they wanted to target. We were able to generate 115 different conversions, showroom ups. We also work with a Harley Davidson dealer that is local to us. Their 2 competitors that they targeted are like complete opposite spectrums of the world. They're at least 45 minutes away from this one dealership. When we started with them, within 30 days, we were able to generate 72 different conversions, showroom up. That was a huge deal for our client, because, you know, there's only a certain amount of time with these Harley dealers that people are even interested in riding motorcycles, that they wouldn't even purchase a motorcycle. You know, as it gets colder, that is like not an option for them. It sits in the garage. So for them, this type of product and software worked amazing, and they've been doing it for over a year with us now. So it's something very beneficial. They understand it. We use their language. We put the aggressive message out there, and it's something that we do change on a regular basis, because you want to keep it fresh as well.
That's super compelling, Teresa. I appreciate you sharing all that, and then the different types of clients you're working with and how you actually communicate direct value, action to value. That's terrific. Rich, go ahead and talk us through your approach.
Yeah, so our whole approach, we call it our 3 C's: capture, communicate, and connect. And really where that capture starts coming in is being able to take these MAIDs or these mobile IDs and then communicate with them in a variety of different ways. We're fortunate, we have our own DSP, so we're able to upload those MAIDs directly into the DSP, and then not only target them with Facebook, but now we can start going after them with video, with display ads, and then following it all the way back around, as Teresa was saying, to see actually how many of them showed up at the dealership, which is incredibly important. If you go to the next slide, one of the things that we also do, a side benefit to the data, is it allows us to be more effective in all of our marketing efforts. For example, this is one of our clients. They have a brand new store in Hattiesburg, and one of the big thoughts was when they opened up this dealership that they were going to be able to pull from south of the dealership up north. South of the dealership is typically a pretty heavy RV in this area. And that was the original thought. But now that the dealership's been open a couple months, what we're seeing from the data is we're pulling much more to the north. You can see there where the little pin is pointed, that's where the dealership is. And primarily we're going up towards the Jackson market as opposed down towards the Gulfport Biloxi market. And that's just where the travel patterns are coming in. And so what that helps us with is everything from cable buys, billboards, you name it, direct mail. Maybe now we're dropping heavier into that area because we're starting to see this travel pattern. And at the same time, then we can say, hey, look, our message to the south isn't playing as well as it should have been. What do we need to do to get the south people to come up? Because what we're seeing, the dealer that we're working with, fortunately has another store in Hammond. So we're seeing that south people are still going east to west as opposed to going north to south. So it really allows us to dial it in. And our little quote there from George Will, knowing where to fish is more important than the bait on your hook. If you're fishing in a wrong pond or there's no fish in that pond, it doesn't matter what your message is or what types of things, whether it's a video ad or the Facebook ad, nobody's going to come because there's nothing in that pond. So we love the side benefit of the data to allowing us to know where to fish. And then if you go to the last slide, the other thing is the creativity and thinking outside the box. Dan, you said it earlier in your in your little bit that you know people think about when you gave the example of geoframing Orange Theory if you were in the apparel business. We do a lot of this today for our dealers. We do a lot of marine dealers. We do a lot of power sports dealers, a lot of RV dealers. So for an RV dealer, we want to see everybody who's been camping, right? Then we can build that list because you're not in a campground unless either A, you like camping, or B, you have a camper, right? You don't go there to hang out and eat at the fruit stand or something. You're there because you want to go camping. So those people are the best people for our dealers to talk to. You know, Teresa, we have quite a few Harley dealers too. One of the places that we typically go for our Harley dealers are the biker bars. You know, a lot of times when I'm talking to a salesperson or I'm talking to the marketing person at a dealership, and I'll say, hey, give me a list of 3 or 4 of the biker bars in town. And then we go ahead and we geoframe those biker bars. You know, for boats, marinas, right? You know, because and we've already done the middle of a lake before, because you're not out in the middle of a lake without a boat or you're in a lot of trouble. So, you know, anybody that we capture in the middle of the lake or where the sandbar is, they're good people for us talking to. So thinking outside the box, because what your dealers and what your clients are going to want you to at first, oh, you know, I hate George Smith up the street. That guy stole 15 deals from me over the last year. You know, and they get all, you know, competitive about it, but you got to get them off of just their competition, but to other places as well. And then you can really start, you know, pulling it all together.
Awesome. That's great. I really appreciate that, Rich. And Teresa, your piece as well. That actually brings us to arguably the most important part of the webinar. I want to make sure we get to everyone's questions on the session today. So Michael, lead us through this.
Sure. Well, this is really fantastic. And as I mentioned before, and as Dan just told us, we have some time for a few questions, which we'll get to in a minute. But I just want to give you one reminder that a copy of today's recording of the webinar will be sent to all of you in the audience by email tomorrow, so keep an eye out for it. Okay, so let's get to some questions here. Here's one from Mike Lang, which we've talked about a little bit here, but not as directly as he's asking. Where in an agency does the initiative to utilize the geofencing approach originate? A media team looking to fulfill need for a client team looking to innovate, just looking to see where you think the traction comes from. I generally see client teams as being more innovative in discovering new solutions. Media teams are more reactive. What do you guys think about that?
I think here it stems from the digital team. You know, we're always trying to get more for less, right? Budgets can't keep going up, and as more and more people wade into the pool, you know, 2008, 2009 wasn't that long ago, but when I first started helping dealers in 2009, people be like, why do I want to spend money on Facebook? Isn't that free? Right? Dealers in 2010 were, you know, Google, nobody clicks on the ads, they only click on the free. But you go around the country today, just about every dealer's paying for Facebook and every dealer's paying for Google. So the digital department really should be driving this, in my opinion. You know, and if you're on a digital department, go see your CEO at the agency or your director and say, hey, look, you got to give me some weapons to go fight, because it's the digital guys that take all of the crap at the end of the day. When the campaign doesn't work, it's never the message, it's never the dealer, it's that digital guy didn't do his job. You can tell I was a digital guy. So you give them something to fight with, you know, and I think that's really where, in my opinion, where it needs to stem from.
Yeah, and I don't mind touching on this as well. You know, we're a pretty small team compared to what a lot of other much larger agencies can be. You know, we're a team of 17 people. That includes 8 different people being in a call center, 4 people in production, and then we have account managers. So when it comes to when we were seeking after like new products, I mean, that kind of stems from myself and the CEO, where we're like, what can we do that's going to be the next best thing? What can we do to get a step ahead? So really, I think it kind of either stems from the top, because the salespeople that are out there, they need the products to go sell. So if it's, you know, it's got to stem somewhere in the top where people can then make that partnership happen and then give it to the people who are able to then go out and speak about it.
Hey, Dan and Randy, got any additional comments on that?
I don't. I think hearing from the people who are actually doing it every day is what.
Absolutely. Okay. So here's a question from George Hayes. Are data privacy issues a boon or a problem in geofencing?
So
probably all dealt with here.
Yeah.
Yes. For us, with when it comes to like the data privacy and all that kind of stuff, what we're generating from the platform with Reveal is mobile IDs, you know, and then when we're uploading that into Facebook, it's just a complete hash of information. It's just a bunch of numbers all matching together. We've then had clients ask us, well, if there's showroom ups, can't you give me that person's name, email, and phone number? It's not how it works. You know, everything is hashed. There's no issues ever, because everything is hashed information. So unless that person goes and then submits a lead form, and then you have offline conversions that are then tracking back to, then we can count this person for being able to saw the ad and this is where the ad came from, then, you know, then of course then we would be able to track it back. But there's no privacy issues in that standpoint, because everything is hashed information.
Yeah, and the other thing is, you know, Google luckily backed off on this whole cookie issue that they were going to drop in January. Now they backed off a little bit, but it's going to come around again in some way. So for people who aren't embracing new technology, we like to say here, you know, cookies are for milk, right? We need to have something a little bit different to it. And it happens to us in our everyday lives, and it's not really intrusive. If you don't abuse the audience, then people don't even notice it. What I mean by that is, if I would, for a car dealership, geoframe all the Domino's pizza locations, right? And you know, anybody was in Domino's today, now I'm hammering them for a car. That's abusing the technology, all right? You know, because how do you know the person in Domino's was interested in a car? Conversely, if you are at a car lot today and then you get a car ad tonight, it's helpful, you know, and that when that helpfulness comes across to people, they don't know why they get it or how it came. I think a lot of times people think the bank ratted them out as soon as they apply for credit, they start getting all sorts of stuff. But it really, you know, we get very little blowback from it, you know, from, hey, you know, and we can see it too, even in things like, you know, opt-out rates and stuff. You know, as long as you don't abuse it and you take care of your database, you know, you're fine.
Yeah, and we play a role in nothing gets to you guys. It hasn't come through us first, right? You're pulling mates out of our platform, and so we do some, you know, George, the question is like, you know, is it an issue? It's definitely a business issue. Like, we have to devote resources to making sure that we are CCPA compliant, that we're compliant with any of the other local regulations that come up, and we have to provide opt-out systems, and we work with the IAB to put code in. So we're making sure that anybody that comes in, we can recognize it has asked to be opted out, they're pulled out. We, you know, it's good and bad. It's like one of those hurdles you guys, you know, Rich and Teresa have to deal with, but you have to refresh our audiences, because you can't have somebody longer than 30 days in there that has asked to opt out, or else you are not in compliance. So there are a bunch of things that we have to do, but I think it makes it healthier in the long haul. Even, you know, everybody's probably, as a consumer, has experienced this whole thing where now Apple has forced the in iOS 14.5 and forward, the apps themselves to more explicitly get permission that says, yes, I will allow you to track and use my data. But the apps have had to explain then why, you know, that's important to them. And exactly what Rich just said, it's because we're going to serve you more relevant information, which is advertising, which is part of the, you know, content really when you get down to it, and also that it helps make that content available and monetize it. So it's paying, you know, it's work, right? No business doesn't have its challenges, but it is healthy. It's good. You know, the more consumers trust what they're reading and what they're seeing, and advertising and content, the better it is for all of us.
That's good. So here's an interesting question from Susie Kendrick. Can you specify dates you want to target certain locations? For example, if you wanted to target a certain demographic at a conference.
So
Yeah.
I think that's yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
We do a lot for RV shows because in that RV industry, there's a couple big ones throughout the year. You know, the Hershey RV show or the Super Show in Tampa that have hundreds of thousands of people. Once again, you're not going to Super Show in Tampa unless you like camping, right? You know, so if your idea of a good weekend is staying at the Ritz-Carlton, you're probably not at Super Show. So we absolutely do those, those short time things. And then also from the attribution side of things as well, hey, this campaign ran from this date to this date. So we really only want to measure the traffic in there and, to see what kind of lift we got compared to the time before.
Okay.
And, that's, so I'm a sales guy. I got to talk a little bit about what we do. We go back 18 months. We allow you to go back, and you can pick any day or 3 months or whatever over 18 months. So that option is definitely available inside our platform.
So here's a question from Cliff Foister that I think is very specific, but I think probably a lot of people are wondering. What % of customers can be reached via the Facebook, Instagram platform?
Yeah, I don't mind touching on that one. So I believe, and Dan and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's an 80% match for what is pulled out from Reveal Mobile from the audience that we're able to build to then go into Facebook. Not everybody has social media. There are people that are completely like to try to stay off the grid as much as possible. But even if they don't have social media, but we have their mobile ID, then obviously it's not going to match up to anybody. So I believe that percentage is 80%. Is that correct?
Yeah, we say 65 to 85, just to because what audience you select, some of them might be more likely to try to be off the grid, and some are much more younger and more likely to be found. But yes, you're spot on.
That's right. And it depends on the platform too. TikTok is going to have maybe a lower match rate, 65, and Facebook is going to have maybe an 80-85% match rate.
Yep. And so with that too, just to kind of touch on that, even with that percentage match rate, our campaigns have still always performed at at good metrics. We've not been unhappy with something that we have pulled from Reveal, uploaded into Facebook, and said, well, that audience wasn't big enough or anything like that. We still have generated a really, really good outcome with the audience that we're pulling from.
That's great.
Oh, okay. So I think we have time for one more question, which is, if my client has only 2 locations, how can I get a large enough audience for a meaningful campaign?
It's funny, I can answer that, but Teresa, you're the dealers, you're dealing the RV example, the Harley Davidson example, so there's the amount of time you go back, there's cross device matching, which is being able to say, hey, we got somebody who was in the dealership or in the location, but then when they go home, we're able to match that to the other devices in their home, which makes it, a lot of these decisions are family, group decisions, so that increases the size of the audience. Clearly looking at the consumer journey, where else they have been besides that location as well. And now I see that they go to Whole Foods and Lifetime Gym, so I'm going to geofence those as well.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off of that one specific dealer I was talking about in the beginning that thought their clients were going across the street and really they were going down the road, we found that the first place they stopped at was the Starbucks across the street. So we started we made little geofence polygons around the areas that they immediately left from, and then the one that's down the street as well. So, it might only be like, well, I only have 2 people that I'd like to go ahead and target. But then when you are able to see where their customers are actually going to first and where they're going around, it might not be that automotive client's competitor, but it's definitely the places that they're visiting. So we did, we were able to branch out a little bit more by seeing that information.
Okay, so I think with that, we're going to kind of, we're sort of very near the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap for today. One thing I wanted to mention to the audience, if you asked a question and did not get answered, don't worry about it. The folks at Reveal have received all your questions and they can respond to each of you directly after the webinar is over. I wanted to say thanks again to Dan, Randy, Teresa, and Rich for a great presentation today, and to the audience for some great questions. And thanks to all of those behind the scenes at Reveal who helped to put all of this together. We hope you found the information presented helpful and informative. Stay tuned to Media Post website and digital publications in your inbox for more informative webinars to come from other valuable Media Post partners in the weeks and the months to come. Thanks so much to all of you for joining today. We'll see you next time, and stay safe out there. Take care. See you soon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.